Sham Sharadavam Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karunyam Ghana Ghanatam Sham Sharadavam Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karunyam Ghana Ghanatam Pratasya Kalyanam Gunanavasya Vande Gurashi Charanarvindam Pratasya Kalyanam Gunanavasya Vande Gurashi Charanarvindam Vande Gurashi Charanarvindam Mahaprabhu ki Tana Nritya Gita Vaditra Madhyam Manasura Sena Romanchakam Pasru Taranga Bhajo Vande Gurashi Charanarvindam Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shingaratanma Nirmajanado Yuktasya Bhaktamsa Niyonjatapi Vande Gurashi Charanarvindam Chaturvidhashi Bhagavad-Prasada Satana Triptan Hari Bhakta Sangha Chaturvidhashi Bhagavad-Prasada Satana Triptan Kritaiva Tripti Bhajata Sadeva Vande Gurashi Charanarvindam Shiradikama Gabayara Para Madhura Lila Gunarupanamna Shiradikama Bhavayara Para Madhura Lila Gunarupanamna Pratikshana Swa Tanalalupasya Vande Gurashi Charanarvindam Vande Gurashi Charanarvindam Nikunjayono Ratikeli Siddhai Jajali Bhirjukti Apekshaniya Nikunjayono Tatrati Dakya Ativalavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Ativaravasa Sajjat Daridena Samasta Shastri Uktas Tatha Bhavyataiva Sadabhi Kintu Pravarja Priya Eva Tasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Yasya Prasada Bhagavad Prasada Yasya prasadam nagati kutapi Yasya prasadam Yasya prasadam Dayam stuvam tasya Yasastin sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Dhyayam stuvam Yasati sanyam Dhyayam stuvam stasya Yasasti sanyam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namo Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunavadi Pachatari Shatarine Namaste Deve Gauravani Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Hora Bhakta Vrinda Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Hora Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hariyaraye Namah Krishna, Jadavaye Namah, Jadavaye Madhavaye Kesavaye Namah, Gopal Govindaram Shri Madhusudan, Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavad-Gita Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raguna Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasaraguna Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Bol, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Shri Shri Radha, Nila Madhava Radha, Nila Madhava Radhe, Radha, Radha, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadrama, Jaya Sudarshan Chakra. Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Sitaram, Jaya Lakshmana Numa, Jaya Sitaram, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaur Haribo, Haribo, Haribo. Haribo Nitai Gaura Pramanande Haribo Jaya Vishwapara Paramsa Prabhajaka Sutara Sarasi Samad ISKCON Pratishta Viviti Samstapakacharya Vaishnav Siramani Gaura Priyajana Krishna Prima Bhakti Data Patita Pavana His Divine Grace Abhay Charavinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Visabhuja Mahotsava Ki Jai The Divine Appearance Day of ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ji Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Gaurya Guru Varga Patiti Udhari Ki Jai Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatha Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Gurasat Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ji Ki Jai Jayananta Koti Vaishnavrind Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shubhasari Gaura Bhaktavrind Ki Jai Jai Param Dayal Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai Jai Prema Nama Sankirtanika Janaka Prema Purushottama Shri Sachinandana Shriman Gauranga Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Gaur Hari Mahavrana Avatari Ki Jai Golokera Pramadhan Hari Nam Sankirtan Jaga Ki Jai Yuga Dharma Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai Brihatmidanga Transcendental Book Distribution Seva Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopagopina Radha Kunda Samakunda गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय, श्री ब्रज वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की जय, तेलोश विशिष्य नीलमाधव की जय, श्री श्री माया पूर्णवद्वीप एक चक्र धाम की जय, परम करुण श्री गौर निताय की जय, श्री पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय, श्री श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी बलदेव प्रभु सुभद्रा देव सुदर्शन चक्र भगवान की जय, भक्ति सर्व विघ्न विनाशना करुण सिंगरे भगवान की जय, गंगा माई जमुना माई की जय, तुलसी महारानी वृंदी देव भक्ति देव की जय, बोलो श्रीमती राधा रानी की जय, श्री नंद उत्सव की जय, समवेत भक्तवृंद की जय, निताय गौर हरि प्रमानंदे हरि बोल. All glories to assembled bodies, all glories to assembled bodies, all glories to assembled bodies, all glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Shri Guru Shri Gauranga. Jai Namo Vishnu. Namaste Narasingaya. Namaste Narasingaya. Pralada lada da aine. Pralada lada da aine. Hiranyakasipu bhaksha. Silatankanaka laye. Ito nisinga, parato nisinga. Jato jato jami tato nisinga. Vairi nisinga, hrudaye nisinga. Narasingha Madhya Sharanam Prapade. Tavakara Kamalavare Naka Adavutta Singha Dalita Hiranyakasipu Tanabringam Kesavadita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Re Jai Jagadisha Re Jai Jagadisha Re Tavakara Kamalavare Naka Advaita Singha Dalita Hiranyakasipu Tanabringa Kesavadita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Re Jai Jagadisha Re Jai Jagadisha Re Kesavadruta Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Re Jai Jagadisha Re Jai Jagadisha Re Kesavadruta Naradiropa Jai Jagadishare Jai Jagadishare Jai Jagadishare Jaya Nisingade Jaya Nisingade Nisingade Jaya Nisingade Jaya Narahari Jaya Narahari Narahari Jaya Narahari Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Bhakta Prahlad Prahlad Bhakta Prahlad Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo जय श्री भक्ति पत सर्व विघ्नाशन कनिशिंगरे भगवान की जय जय भक्त श्रेष्ठ प्रहलाद महाराज की जय हरिनाम संकीर्तन जग की जय नित्य गौरी प्रेम नंदे हरि हरि बोल Shri Vrindai Tulasi Divai Priyaye Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Pradevi Satavatai Namo Namaha Vrindai Tulasi Divai Priyaye Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Pradevi Shatavatai Namo Namaha Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyai Kesava Satya Krishna Bhakti Pradevi Shatavatai Namo Namaha Jai Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai Namo Namo Tulasi Krishna Priyasi Namo Namo Tulasi Krishna Priyasi Namo Namo Tulasi Krishna Priyasi Namo Namo Krishna. Radha Krishna Seva Pavam Eya Vilasi. Radha Krishna Seva Pavam Eya Vilasi. Je tomara sharanala tara vancha purna. Kripa kori kara tare Vrindavana vasi. Tumi kripa kori kara tare Vrindavana vasi. Tumi Namo Namo Moraya Vila Vilas Kunje Diyova Moraya Vilas Kunje Nayane Vivo Sada Jugala Ruparasi. Amen. Eni Vedana Dada Sakirano Gata Kara Seva yadi kara diye kara nijadasi. Dina Krishna daste koi enamora. Shri Radha Govinda premi sada yena basi. Shri Radha Govinda preme sada yena basi. Tulasi Krishna Priyasi Namo Namo. Yani kanisa papane brahma tari kanisa tani tani pranasanti pradakshina pari pari. Jani kanisa papane brahma tari kanisa tani tani pranasanti pradakshina pari pari. Yani kanisa papane brahma tari kanisa tani tani pranasanti pradakshina pari pari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya, Brinda Devi Jaya, Tulsi Maharani Jaya, Brinda Devi. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Haribo, Nitai Gaura Haribo. Shri Vrindai Tulasi Bhai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Pradirivi Shatavatai Namo Namaha. Vrindayai Tulasi Bhai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Pradirivi Shatavatai Namo Namaha. Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Kesava Satya Krishna Bhakti Pradevi Shatavatai Namo Namaha. Jai Srimati Tulasi Maharani Brinda Devi Ki Jai. O Tulasi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you is fulfilled. Bestow your mercy upon him, you make him resident of Vrindavan. My desire that you also grant me a residence in pleasure groves of Sri Vrindavan Dham. Thus within my vision I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower carry damsels of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maid servant. This very fallen and lowly servant Krishna praise. May I always swim in love, Shri Radha and Govind. Shri Mati Tulsi Maharani Brindadevi ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shikhastakam ki jai. Chaito Darpana Majanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nivapanam Shri Akari Vachandrika Vitaranam Vidya Vadhu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Padipadam Purnamrita Shradanam Sarvatmasnam Param Param Jayati Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Baudha Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrarpita Niyamita Shmarane Nakala Ita Drishitava Kripaya Bhuvanati Buddhaivam Idrishamya Janinanurada Trinadapi Sunichaina Tarurapi Sahishnuna Amani Namanadena Kitanya Surahari Nadanam Nadanam Sundarim Kavitamba Jagadisha Kamaye Mama Janmane Janmaneshwari Bhavata Bhakti Raitu Kitoi Oi Nanda Tanuja Kinkaram Paritama Vishame Bhavam Buddho Kripaya Tava Pada Pankaja Stitaduli Sadrisam Vichintaya Nayanam Galurashrudharaya Vadanam Gadagadharudaya Gira Pulakari Chitam Vapukada Tavanamagrahane Bhavisati Jugaitam Nimishena Chakshusha Prabhusaitam Shunyaitam Jagata Sarvam Govinda Virahiname Aslisya Vapadaratam Pinashtamam Adarshanan Marmahatam Karotuva Jatha Tathava Vidadhatu Lampoto Matpranatastu Saivana Paraha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sikastakam ki Jai Namo Mahavarannaya Krishna Prema Pradayati Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratisha Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Saminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Shrunavadi Patsatyadi Satarine Jai Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sikastakam ki Jai. Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life with repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can bring the old benediction to living beings. And thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names. But I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Once you chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself Lord and straw in the street, one should be more tolerant than a street, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others.
Mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Oh, my Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O son Manahaj Nanda, I'm your eternal servant. Yet somehow or other I've fallen into this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. Oh my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love, flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? like voice choke up, and one with the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your holy name. O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes, like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Siksastakam Ki Jai. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitanami. Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Pacharani Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Pashtadya Desatarani. To blaspheme the devotees who are dedicated their lives to propagating the holy names of the Lord. It's like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma, to be equal to or independent in names of Lord Vishnu. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. To blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature in pursuance of the Vedic version. Consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna as imagination. To give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord. Commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. Consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in the Vedas as fruitive activities or karma kanda. To instruct the faithless person about the glories of the holy name. To not have complete faith in chanting holy names and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions in this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisances unto all Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just like desire trees that can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Panchakalpatarabhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Vaishnava Thakur Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitanami. Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Pashtadya Desatarani. Om Aganyat Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manubhistam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jataha Pachakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Saivaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Nivitam Sa Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Shri Bhave Guruvani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Namine Shri Vasuvanavi Devi Dayitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhur Ujvala Primadya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namastute Namaste Guruvani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudapa Abhisidanta Dvantaharine Namo Gora Kishoraya Sakshat Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Padambhajayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachitananda Namine Gora Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gauravir Baba Gomestwam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Savabhoma Sri Jagadatayate Namaha Vanchakalpa Tarabhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gorachase Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Saktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostate Jayatam Sudator Pangur Mama Mandamatir Gati Vatsarvaswa Padambojo Radha Madana Mohano Divya Vindaranya Kalpudumadaha Shimad Ratnagara Simhasanastito Shimad Radha Shiva Govinda Devo Prastali Bhi Sevyamano Smarami Shiman Rasa Rasarambi Vamsivata Tatastita Karsan Venusvaner Gopir Gopinatak Striye Stuna Tapta Kanchana Gurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Stute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shri Guru Pranama appears ki jai. Shri Brahma Samhita ki jai. Ishwara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Anadiradi Govinda Sarvakarna Karanam Chentamani Prakalasad Masukalpa Vriksha Laksa Vitesa Surabir Avipaliantam Lakshmi Sahasra Satasambram Sevyamanam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Venum Kvanantam Arvinda Dalayataksham Parhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandarpa Kotika Maniya Vishesha Sobham Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandra Kalasadvanamalya Vamsi Ratnam Gadam Pranayakeli Kalavilasam Shamam Tribanga Lalita Nita Prakasam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti Pasyanti Panti Kalyanti Chiranjaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purisham Navyovanam Cha Vedesa Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Pantastakoti Satavatsara Sampragamyo Vayo Ratapi Manasomani Pungamanam Sopyasti Yat Prabhadasimya Vichintya Tatve Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Sora Chayatam Jagadanda Kotim Yaschaktirasti Jagadanda Chaya Yadanta Andantarasta Paramanu Chayantarasta Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yad Bhava Bhavita Dio Manajasta Taiva Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanayana Bhusa Suktarya Meva Nigamar Patitaistavanti Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Patibhavitabis Tabirya Eva Nitirupa Taya Kalabi Goloka Eva Nivasata Kilatma Bhuto Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santaksa Deva Hidesu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Guna Swarupam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Sukalani Menatistan Anavataram Akarod Bhuvanesa Kinta Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramam Pamamyo Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yasya Prabha Pavato Jagananda Koti Koti Swasesa Vasudadi Vibhuti Binam Tad Brahmanis Kalamanantam Asesa Bhutam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Maya Hiyasya Jagananda Satani Sute Traigunya Tad Visaya Veda Vitaya Manam Sattvabulam Viparasatvam Visuddha Sattvam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasat Mataya Manasa Ya Prani Nam Patifulam Smaratam Upetya Dilaya Tena Bhuvanani Jayaya Jasra Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Goloka Namni Nijidamni Tale Chatasya Devi Maheso Adidama Sute Sutesu Tete Prabhavani Jaya Vitas Jayena Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Sustistati Pralaya Sadhava Saktireka Jayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vibharti Durga Ijjana Rupam Abhyasya Chitestasa Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Shiram Yata pada vivikara visesa yoga jayate nahitata pritakaste hetuya sambhutama pitata samapaitika Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Deparchadevi Hita Santaramabhyapetya Dipayate Vivitaheta Samanu Dharma Yastadrikevi Hitya Vishnutaya Vibhati Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yakarna Narna Vajale Balichisma Yoga Nidramananta Jagadanda Saroma Kupa Adhara Saktim Avalabhya Parasma Murtim Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yasyaika Nisvasit Kalamata Avalambhya Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagadanda Nata Vishnu Mahansai Yasyakala Visesa Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Vasman Yatasma Sakalesha Nijesha Teja Sviyanki Yat Prakatayat Apitadvratatra Brahmaya Esa Jagadanda Vidanu Karta Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Pada Palava Yugam Vinidaya Kumbhadvande Pranama Samayesa Ganadi Raja Vignam Vihanta Malamasya Jagatreyasya Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Agni Mahiga Gamman Bhumvardisasya Kalasta Tatma Manasiti Jagatreyani Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Visanti Amcha Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yaschaksuresa Savitasa Galagrahanam Raja Samasta Samurtya Sisateja Yasyagaya Pramati Sambrita Kala Chakro Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Dharmo Tapapa Nichaya Sutesta Pamsi Pramadi Kita Patagave Tashivaha Yadata Matu Vipava Prakataba Bhava Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Astrindra Gopa Matavendra Mahosva Karma Pandan Rupa Falabhajana Matanoti Karmani Nidhati Kintu Bhakti Bhajam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajamyam Koda Kamasa Japayadi Bitti Vatsaya Moha Guru Gora Vasevya Bhavai Sanchintya Tasya Sadrisim Tanamapurete Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Shia Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpatarabo Jumabu Mishchintama Niganama Itu Hemamrita Kata Ganam Nadyam Gamanam Apivam Sipriyasa Kichiranandam Jyoti Param Apitadas Vajavaja Sayacha Siradu Bihisabdi Sirabi Byasta Sumaha Nimesa Dakyuvava Jatina Hiyatra Pisamaya Bhajes Vitadvi Pantamaham Il Kola Kamitiam Vedantas Te Santakshati Viralachara Katipaya Shri Guru Vastika prayers Kijay. The spiritual masters receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as the cloud pours water on the forest fire to extinguish it, so the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by blazing fire of material existence. I offer my respectful base unto lotus feet is such spiritual master who is an ocean of auspicious qualities, chanting the holy name, dancing in ecstasy, singing, playing musical instruments. The spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he is relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his mind. Sometimes his hair stands on that. He feels quivering in his body, and tears flow from his eyes like wave. I offer my respectful basis unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. Spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of Shri Radha and Krishna. He also engages his disciples in such worship. They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments, clean their temple, and perform other similar worship of the Lord. I offer my respectful basis unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master. The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food, analyzes that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked. When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied being Bhagavad Prasada, he is satisfied. I offer my respectful basis unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master. Spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes, erotic and Madhava, and the qualities names that forms the spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment. I, for my respectful basis unto the lotus feet, is such spiritual master. Spiritual master is very dear because he's expert in assisting gopis who at different times meet different tastes and relations for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavan. I, for my most humble basis unto the lotus feet, is such spiritual master. Spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he's the most confidential servant to the Lord. This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore, I, for my respectful basis unto the lotus feet, is such spiritual master as bona fide representative of Sri Hari Krishna. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master at least 3 times a day. I should offer my respectful basis unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, his divine grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 5, Text number 11. Kaschip Dunat Tirtapado Bidanati Satre Suva Surabir Idyamanat Yakarna Nadim Purusasya Yato Bhava Pradam Geharatim Chinati. Ka. Who is that man? Trip Nu Yat. That can be satisfied. Tirthapada, whose lotus feet are all the places of pilgrimage. Abiddanat, from the talks of Satresu, in human society. Va, one who is Suribhi, by great devotees. Idyamanat, one who is so worshipped. Ya, who, karna nadim, in the holes of the ears, purusasya, of a man, yata, entering, bhava pradam, that which awards births and deaths, geheratim, family affection, chinnati, is cut off. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Who in human society can be satisfied without hearing sufficient talk of the Lord, whose lotus feet are the sum total of all places of pilgrimage, and who is worshipped by great sages and devotees? Such topics can be cut off one's bondage. Such topics can cut off one's bondage to family affection simply by entering the holes of one's ears. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Krishna Katha is so powerful that simply by entering into a person's ear, it can at once give deliverance from the bondage of family affection. Family affection is an illusory manifestation of the external energy, and it is the only impetus for all mundane activities. As long as there is mundane activity and the mind is absorbed in such engagement, one has to undergo the repetition of birth and death in the current material nescience. People are most influenced by the mode of ignorance, and some are influenced by the passionate mode of material nature. And under the spell of these two modes, a living being is actuated by the material conception of life. The mundane qualities do not allow a living entity to understand his real position. The qualities of both ignorance and passion strongly bind one to the illusory bodily conception of the self. The best among the fools who are thus deluded are those who engage in altruistic activities under the spell of the material mode of passion. Bhagavad-Gita, which is direct Krishna Katha, gives humanity the elementary lesson that the body is perishable and that the consciousness which is spread throughout the body is imperishable. The conscious being, the imperishable self, is eternally existent and cannot be killed under any circumstances, even after the dissolution of the body. Anyone who misunderstands this perishable body to be the self and who works for it in the name of sociology, politics, philanthropy, altruism, nationalism, or internationalism under the false plea of the bodily conception of life is certainly a fool and does not know the implications of reality and unreality. Some of them are above the modes of ignorance and passion and are situated in the mode of goodness, but mundane goodness is always contaminated by tinges of ignorance and passion. Mundane goodness can enlighten one that the body and the self are different, and one in goodness is concerned with the self and not the body. But due to being contaminated, those in mundane goodness cannot understand the real nature of the self as a person. Their impersonal conception of the self as distinct from the body keeps them in the mode of goodness within material nature, and unless they are attracted by Krishna Katha, they will never be liberated from the bondage of material existence. Krishna Katha is the only remedy for all people of the world because it can situate one in pure consciousness of the self and liberate one from material bondage. To preach Krishna Katha all over the world is recommended by Lord Chaitanya. To teach Krishna Katha all over the world as recommended by Lord Chaitanya is the greatest missionary activity, and all sensible men and women of the world may join in this great movement started by Lord Chaitanya. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Gaura Premanandi Haribol. Who in human society can be satisfied without hearing sufficient talk of the Lord, whose lotus feet are the sum total of all places of pilgrimage, and who is worshipped by great sages and devotees? Such topics can cut off one's bondage to family affection simply by entering the holes of one's ears. Gaur Premanandi, Haribol, Haribol, Haribol. Now, usually people say, oh, family is the most important thing for me. Especially politicians, after they've been caught cheating on their wife, they always make this type of mea culpa speech. Oh, I am a sinner, but family is the most important thing for me. Well, if it's so important, why did you cheat on your wife? See? So these people are complete nonsense. And also, people who are so attached to family that they refuse to listen to Krishna Katha, and all they want to do is just eat, sleep, mate, and defend like an animal with their family. They're also nonsense. However, if one has a Krishna-conscious family in which both husband and wife's main concern in life is serving Krishna with love and devotion without any material desires in their heart, but only desires to please Krishna, that is not nonsense. That is Krishna consciousness. We see even in Prabhupada's family, although his wife was what would be considered a good Hindu, she was, on the other hand, addicted to a few little bad habits, like drinking tea and sometimes coffee, and also sometimes complaining why Prabhupada would invite different sadhus to the house and so forth. So, although his wife was a good Hindu, she was not actually really dedicated full-time to Krishna consciousness. Okay, now we're not going to fault her, but Prabhupada himself realized that at a certain point he had to take sannyas and not be so enveloped in activities of the family. Now, that is a perfect example of a pure devotee. Just like Lord Chaitanya, when some of his students, when he was still teaching Sanskrit as well as Krishna consciousness through Sanskrit verses, they criticized him because they saw him one day chanting, Gopi, 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 Gopi. And they said, why are you chanting Gopi, Gopi? You should only chant Hare Krishna. Now, some people will think, oh, they were saying the right thing. But actually, Lord Chaitanya was in ecstatic feelings of love for Radha and Krishna. And because of that, he started reciting the names of the gopis. Then he realized, listen, these people are not respecting me, and because of that, they're committing an offense, and therefore my purpose of helping people go back to Godhead is not being accomplished. Therefore, he decided at 24 years old to quit his mother and his wife, who was a young girl, she was only 16 at the time, and his mother, who was rather old, and he took sannyas. Now, some people would say, oh, this is very harsh. Why did he do that? His mother and father didn't do anything wrong to him. His mother and wife didn't do anything wrong to him, and that's true. But the mission that Lord Chaitanya had was to spread Krishna Katha and Krishna consciousness all over the world through the Harinam Sankirtan movement. Therefore, that mission to be accomplished, it was necessary for him to take sannyas, and that way get the natural respect from the public. Because if the public finds something wrong with a pure devotee, they're not going to listen to what he says. Therefore, he acted in an exemplary way by taking sannyas immediately and gaining the natural respect of the people who still at that time would respect a sannyasi. They understood what it meant at that time. They don't understand what it means anymore. And when I say they, I don't mean everybody, but most people don't understand what it means for someone to take sannyas, which is a very exalted position if they are sincere. So now we see that the most difficult obstacle to overcome in one's life is family attachment. Now, we're not against the family. What we're against is mundane life in the family. We're not against transcendental life in the family. And husband and wife together can both be transcendentalists. by advancing to Krishna through Krishna Katha. So we see simply being initiated is not enough. Simply memorizing all the verses in Sanskrit, in Bhagavad-Gita, for example, is not enough. Simply coming to the temple and taking part in Aarti is not enough. There's something else that's necessary even after initiation by a bona fide guru, and even after chanting Hare Krishna. It is Krishna Katha. Now we see in this purport and in other purports that we've read, Prabhupada is making it clear that unless one hears on a regular basis Krishna Katha, they will not go back to Godhead. Because there's one thing is to be initiated, and it's a very good thing. Another thing is to chant Hare Krishna, which is a very good thing. Another thing is to go out on Sankirtan. But still, one could be affected by mundane family attachment, and that is a real obstacle. So, when the husband and wife both realize this, they become very strict in following Krishna consciousness at home as well as in the temple. Sometimes people follow Krishna consciousness in the temple, but not really seriously at home, partially but not completely. So therefore, they become attached, and it's very difficult for them to become completely renounced and completely dedicated to Krishna. So in this purport it says, and notice the first thing it says in the purport, Krishna Katha is so powerful that simply by entering into a person's ear, it can at once give deliverance from the bondage of family affection. Now, why does Prabhupada say that? Now, most people who hear this who are not devotees, they would say, oh, Krishna consciousness therefore is bad because it will make me be detached from my family. In fact, in India, many people say, look, we don't want our kid to be Krishna conscious because then they won't be dedicated to our family anymore. They'll be like a stranger because of this Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. No, it's not true. A devotee who acts like that is not actually a good devotee, who becomes antagonistic to his family. One should always be respectful to mother and father and engage also in Pita and Mata Seva. But on the other hand, one should not be so attached that they ignore or do not integrally follow Krishna consciousness. So here we have a seemingly dichotomy between family attachment and Krishna consciousness. Actually, it's a false dichotomy. The real family is called Achyuta Gotra, Krishna's family. That's the eternal family. The mundane family is temporary, because in the next life you can have another set of mother and father, and another race, and another ethnicity, and another nationality, and another identity completely. You could also take birth as an animal or an insect and have a different set of family and so forth. So the family attachment to mundane family life is not Krishna consciousness, but the transcendental attachment of both husband and wife and children to Krishna is Krishna consciousness. So this has to be clearly understood by our devotees. Otherwise, they will fall, they will not actually go back to Godhead in this lifetime. So Krishna Katha, hearing about Krishna and his transcendental activities, name, form, and pastimes, this is so powerful that simply by entering into a person's ear, it can at once give deliverance from the bondage of family attachment. Family attachment is an illusory manifestation of the external energy, and it is the only impetus for all mundane activities. As long as there is mundane activity and the mind is absorbed in such engagement, one has to undergo the repetition of birth and death in the current material nescience or ignorance. So there it is. That is a very clear statement by Prabhupada. Some people might like it, some people may not like it, but Prabhupada is speaking the truth. He demonstrated this in his own life, where at a certain point he decided to cut off his relationship with his family. That doesn't mean he ignored them. Before Prabhupada left his body, he set aside a certain amount of the money that he had collected through preaching to maintain his family. Not to maintain them in luxury, but minimal, so that they would never be, let's say, completely destitute. And he had a large family. He had 5 children. They also got married, and his wife. But yet, he set aside some money for them. He also was thinking about others, like the Gaudiya Math. He set aside money so that any temple and that is genuinely following Krishna consciousness could be funded in case of their having severe financial difficulties. And he helped different Gaudiya Math temples and other temples to be maintained in spite of their financial difficulties. He also made sure that ISKCON, his organization, would continue by training devotees in Krishna consciousness, establishing, like his guru wanted, a real governing body commission for collective management of ISKCON, as opposed to appointing a mahant or a so-called pure devotee who would be the only final authority of the movement. So we see Prabhupada thought of all these things. He also separated impartially the Bhaktivedanta book trust from ISKCON, so that even if ISKCON failed, the Bhaktivedanta book trust and distribution of Prabhupada's books would continue. He thought all these things out very carefully and did all these things that his guru wanted, as well as help his family. He never ignored his family, but he did not continue to engage in mundane activities with his family. So this is very interesting. We have to carefully study Prabhupada's way of relating to his family, as well as all the things that he planned so that ISKCON could continue in the future for at least 10,000 years. Okay, so this Krishna Katha, as we say, is so important that even though one is initiated, even though one chants Hare Krishna, even though one may go on Sankirtan, they should also regularly hear Krishna Katha on a daily basis. So, because this is our 3-day festival of Janmashtami, we're going to hear some Krishna Katha. Chapter 1, The Advent of Lord Krishna. This is the Krishna book, and it says, once the world was overburdened by the unnecessary defense force of different kings, who were actually demons, but were posing themselves as the royal order. Well, that's the situation today also. At that time, the whole world became perturbed, and the predominating deity of this earth, known as Bhumi, went to see Lord Brahma to tell of her calamities due to the demoniac kings. So when there are too many demoniac kings, and they're making all kinds of crazy decisions that are against Krishna consciousness, like slaughtering cows and permitting intoxication of all kinds, drugs, alcohol, tobacco, and things like marijuana and so forth. All this is going on now. And it happened previously also. Therefore, Krishna appeared in order to save the devotees or deliver the devotees, annihilate the demons, and reestablish the principles of religion. Now, the principles of religion are not completely eradicated in this age yet, because Prabhupada came, he established the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Before him, his guru came, Saraswati Thakur, he started the Gaudiya Math. These organizations are still continuing. And their purpose is to help people understand who Krishna is, and they follow regulative principles of chanting, dancing, feasting, and so forth. So the Krishna consciousness has not been completely cut off yet in this age. It will be in some future, and then Krishna will come as Kalki avatar to kill all the demons. Now, when Krishna kills demons, they become helped spiritually. They become purified to a certain degree and even can attain impersonal merging. So Krishna's loving and killing is basically almost the same thing. Of course, the benefit for sincere devotees is much greater than the demons who get killed by Krishna. But the demons who get killed by Krishna, at least they will attain impersonal Brahman realization, which is a connection to Krishna. So it says, the earth, Bhumi Devi, who is a person, nothing is impersonal in this world. Everything is personal. But most people don't realize it. So Bhumi Devi goes to see Lord Brahma and says, look, I'm in trouble. There's so many demons now, and the weight of their sinful activities is overburdening me. You've got to do something. Right? So Bhumi assumed the shape of a cow and presented herself before Lord Brahma with tears in her eyes. Well, now we see how important the cow is. We might say, oh, it's just an animal. And it's not just an animal. There's much more to the cow than just being an animal. But we have to realize that by hearing Krishna Katha to realize the real absolute importance of the cow. So it says that she was bereaved and was weeping just to invoke the Lord's compassion. She related the calamitous position of the earth, and after hearing this, Lord Brahma became very much aggrieved, and he at once started for the ocean of milk. So in the material world, there is an ocean of milk. There's also an ocean of oil, like petroleum. There's an ocean of liquor. There's different oceans. There are different things in the material universe we have no idea of yet, but yet we're hearing about it from Srimad Bhagavatam. So there is an ocean of milk, and in the middle of that ocean is an island which is called Swetadvip, and on that island is an expansion of Lord Chaitanya called Shirodakshai Vishnu. Now the Devas can go to the shore of that ocean. They can't go to Swetadvip, but they can go to the shore of that ocean. Why is that? Because they still have some attachment to the material world. You cannot go back to Godhead or associate directly with the Lord unless one is free of all attachment to the material world. So they still have some attachment. They're devotees. Don't think that they're not devotees. Lord Brahma, of course, is a pure devotee in many ways. But still, that little attachment to dominate is there. So when they come to the shore of the ocean of milk, they begin to recite different Vedic mantras to please the Lord. So the way you please the Lord is glorifying the Lord. You don't please the Lord by saying, give me this, give me that. I want my business to do better. I want my kid to pass the SAT test. I want this, I want that. That's not a prayer to the Lord. The real prayer to the Lord is glorifying his transcendental qualities. So there's the Purusha Sukta, there's the Narayana Sukta, there's these different transcendental mantras that are recited by the Devatas. So it says, he went to the ocean of milk where Lord Vishnu resides. Lord Brahma was accompanied by all the demigods, headed by Lord Shiva, and Bhumi also followed. Arriving on the shore of the milk ocean, Lord Brahma began to pacify Lord Vishnu, who had formerly saved the earth planet by assuming the transcendental form of a boar, Varaha incarnation. So when it says the demigods pacified the Lord, okay, now this word pacified, the one meaning of it is they made him feel peaceful. they made him, let's say, have a favorable attitude because they did something that pleased the Lord. So how can you ask something from the Lord unless you actually please him? You don't just come up and say, I want this, give me right away. That doesn't work. But one can say or repeat very wonderful mantras that glorify the Lord and his transcendental qualities, and that catches Krishna's attention. Now, this is a verse, actually. Shinvata svakata Krishna punya sravana kirtana hiryantaksto hibad badrani vinudati suhitshatam. To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures, or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad-Gita, is itself righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna is dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a best-wishing friend, and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. So, this is a very important verse. It's first canto, second chapter, verse number 17. Prabhupada quotes it often. So, if you want to catch Krishna's attention, what do? You recite choice prayers, such as Brahma Samhita, such as such as the Vishnu Sahasranam Sutram, such as the Purusha Sukta, such as the Narayana Sukta. All these prayers glorify the transcendental activities of the Lord. So it says, in the Vedic mantras, there is a particular type of prayer called Purusha Sukta. Generally, the demigods offer their obeisances unto Vishnu and the Supreme Personality Godhead by chanting the Purusha Sukta. Now, what does it say? They offer their obeisances unto Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because Vishnu is a direct expansion. And there's three Vishnus. There's Mahavishnu, there's Garbhodakshay Vishnu, there's Kshirodakshay Vishnu. They are plenary expansions of the Lord. Now, the word plenary is important. It means the same or absolute. So, Lord Vishnu, whether it's Mahavishnu or Garbhodakshay Vishnu or Kshirodakshay Vishnu, they have the same powers as Krishna, but not exactly all the different qualities of Lord Krishna. So, in one way, they are non-different than Krishna. In another way, they are slightly, they don't manifest. It's not that they're not Krishna, but they don't manifest all the activities or all the pastimes of Krishna. So, for example, Lord Vishnu does not play the flute. He doesn't dance with the gopis, and etc. He doesn't have these very intimate relationships with his devotees. There's a certain amount of formality, just like the devas cannot go directly to Swetadweep Island in the middle of the Milk Ocean and talk directly with the Lord. They have to approach him through the sound vibration of the Purusha Sukta and other choice Vedic prayers. And they hear from him, but they don't actually see him. So there is some difference, but not a major difference. They have, the Vishnu incarnation have the same powers as Krishna has. And those are transcendental powers. Okay, so generally the demigods offer their obeisances unto Vishnu, the Supreme Personality Godhead, by chanting the Purusha Sukta. It is understood herein that the predominating deity of every planet can see the Supreme Lord of this universe, Brahma, whenever there is some disturbance on his planet. And Brahma can approach the Supreme Lord, Vishnu, not by seeing him directly, but by standing on the shore of the ocean of milk. There is a planet within the universe called Swetadweepa, and on that planet there is an ocean of milk. It is understood from various Vedic literatures that just as there is the ocean of salt water on this planet, there are various kinds of oceans on other planets. Somewhere there is an ocean of milk, somewhere there's an ocean of oil, and somewhere there are oceans of liquor and many other types of liquids. The Purusha Sukta is the standard prayer which the demigods recite to appease the Supreme Personality Godhead, Kshirodakshai Vishnu, because he is lying on the ocean of milk. He is called Kshirodakshai Vishnu. He is the form of the Supreme Personality Godhead through whom all the incarnations within this universe appear. So all incarnations appear through Kshirodakshai Vishnu, the third Vishnu. Okay, well, there are many things in this universe that the so-called scientists, astrologists, or the astronomers don't know about. There is a planet with an ocean of liquor. There is a planet with an ocean of milk. There is a planet with an ocean of oil, etc. They haven't figured this out yet because they have limited vision due to the four defects that every human being has. We make mistakes, we're easily illusioned, we have imperfect senses, and we have the tendency to be cheaters. So therefore, we cannot, with our imperfect senses, understand all the things about Krishna and the universe. But if we hear these things, Krishna's transcendental qualities, his transcendental pastimes, etc., we can understand much about Krishna, up to 78%. So, therefore, this hearing from bona fide authorities, just like Bhumi Devi, is confused a little bit because she's being overburdened by the demoniac kings and their armies and their fighting and the sinful activities that they perform. So she goes to Lord Brahma. He is her next higher level of authority. And what does Lord Brahma do? He goes to the shore of the Sweta Deep planet and begins to praise Lord Vishnu with this Purusha Sukta. And he goes to a higher authority than himself. Okay, so after all the demigods offer the Purusha Sukta prayer to the Supreme Personality Godhead, they apparently heard no response. Then Lord Brahma personally sat in meditation, and there was a message transmission from Lord Vishnu to Brahma. Whoa! So this message transition from Kshirodakshai Vishnu to Lord Brahma, this is a transcendental type of television or a transcendental type of communication with the Lord. Now this is explained in 1st Canto, 9th chapter, 40th verse, and in other verses, where it says, I think it's there's Bhismadev, and he says, "Let my mind be fixed upon Lord Shri Krishna, whose motions and smiles of love attracted the damsels of Rajadama, the gopis. The damsels imitated the characteristic movements of the Lord after his disappearance from the rasa dance." And Prabhupada writes, "By intense ecstasy in loving service, the damsels of Rajabhumi, meaning the gopis, attain qualitative oneness with the Lord by dancing with him on an equal level." This is why Prabhupada says dancing is also scientific in Krishna consciousness. This dancing ecstatically in the kirtan is one of the necessary pastimes of devotees. It's necessary, just like eating only or respecting only prasadam is necessary, and coming to class and hearing about Krishna's transcendental qualities is necessary, and going out on Sankirtan is necessary to be Krishna conscious. So it says, they attain, by intense ecstasy in loving service, the damsels of Rajabhumi attained qualitative oneness with the Lord by dancing with him on an equal level, embracing him in nuptial love, married life, love, smiling at him in joke, and looking at him with a loving attitude. The relation of the Lord with Arjuna is undoubtedly praiseworthy for devotees like Bhismadeva, but the relation of the gopis with the Lord is still more praiseworthy because of their still more purified loving service. By the grace of the Lord, Arjuna was fortunate enough to have the fraternal or brotherly service of the Lord as a chariot driver. But the Lord did not award Arjuna with equal strength. The gopis, however, practically became one with the Lord by attainment of equal footing with the Lord. They were dancing with him. That's equal footing. They were touching his body. They were offering service to him directly. Bhisma, Lord Brahma, he can't directly offer service to the Lord. He cannot actually see the Lord, but he can communicate to the Lord by deep meditation. What is deep meditation? Chanting the holy name without any other thought in the mind than to glorify the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That is deep meditation. And you're connecting with the Lord through his transcendental names if you recite them purely. So, the gopis' equality with the Lord should never be misunderstood to be like the Sayuja liberation of the impersonalists. The equality is one of perfect ecstasy, where the differential conception is completely eradicated, for the interests of the lover and the beloved become identical. In other words, whatever Krishna wants, that's what the gopis want. Whatever Krishna does, that's what the gopis focus on. They're not concerned about themselves. They're concerned only about Krishna. Now, no one in the material world can say that unless they are trained in Krishna consciousness, and the training includes regularly hearing Krishna Katha. That's an integral part of the training. One can be initiated, one can be chanting Hare Krishna, but unless they hear Krishna Katha on a regular basis, spoken by genuine devotees, they will not go back to Godhead, because they will not be completely purified of the desire to dominate the material world. So both the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living beings are undoubtedly qualitatively one, but the Lord is the controller of the illusory energy, whereas the living entity is controlled by the illusory energy, meaning Maya. Thus, the Lord and the living beings are simultaneously one and different. Another point is distinct herein, because Krishna is never affected by Maya. Maya is completely controlled by Krishna. But because he controls Maya, that doesn't mean he's affected by her. Another point is distinct here, that eternal relation between the Lord and the living being is transcendental. Otherwise, the Lord would not have taken the trouble to reclaim the conditioned souls under the clutches of Maya. Yes, we have an eternal relationship with Krishna. We were originally with Krishna, but we have fallen down and forgotten that. But because we were originally with Krishna, Krishna takes the trouble to come and help us come back to Godhead. See? So there are many points in this little statement here. First of all, some people say, oh, you can never fall down from Vaikuntha or Goloka. No, Prabhupada says it is possible. Of course, it's only a minority of people that fall down. 3/4 of the creation and 3/4 of devotees have never fallen down. Only 1/4 may fall down because of their attraction to the material world. And the original, let's say, the original truths about the living entity are present even in mundane life. Like, for example, we originally have fallen down because we became attracted to illicit sex in the material world. That is the main reason why people fall down. And that's because they are on the edge of the spiritual world, and they're looking at the material nature, and they become attracted to something. So in the same way, that's what happens to us here. There are so many instances of devotees who are considered very advanced, but they become attracted by Maya and they fall down. You see? So that tendency to be controlled by the illusory energy is there inherent in the living entity or in the jiva. That doesn't mean they have to fall down, but that tendency is there if they become falsely attracted to Maya. Another point is distinct herein, that the eternal relationship between the Lord and the living being is transcendental. Otherwise, the Lord would not have taken the trouble to reclaim the conditioned souls from the clutches of Maya. Therefore, Krishna comes himself, or he sends his pure devotee, or he manifests as one of his plenary expansions, such as Matsya and Varaha and the different incarnations of the Lord, Nrsingadev, etc., to what? Annihilate the demons, deliver the devotees, and reestablish the principles of Sanatana Dharma, or Krishna consciousness. In the same way, the living entity is also revived, is also required to revive his natural love and affection for the Lord, and that is the highest perfection of the living entity. Srimad Bhagavatam treats the conditioned soul with an aim to this goal of life, or that goal of life. So, it says Krishna Bhakti is present in the heart of every living entity, but it may be dormant because of bad association. If we enter into good association, that natural dormant love, Krishna's Siddha Krishna, Krishna Bhakti, that natural love for Krishna, can be reawakened or revived by association with pure devotees, and then it can be manifested again, and one can go back to Godhead, where they belong. Okay, so this is the first canto, 9th chapter, 40th verse, where this very intimate knowledge is spoken about by Bhisma Pitamaha. All right, so therefore, what time is it now? Yeah, 7:15. So we will stop right here and continue later on today at different times, hearing Krishna Katha. Are there any questions anyone would like to ask? Okay, no questions, no answers. We will go now to Guru Puja. Gaur Premanandi, Haribo, Haribo. You want to chant, Prabhu? That's all right. You finish. We'll chant. Huh? Yeah. Sorry. You can begin by chanting Hare Krishna if you want.
Or Jai Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya 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 Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma.
Guru Charana Kevala Bhakti Sadma.
Bando Moi Savadhana Mate.
Bandhumi Sabadana Mate.
Jahara Prasade Bhai Eva Vatori Ajay.
Janar Prasade Vai Eva Vatori Ajay.
Krishna Prapti Ho Jaha Hate.
Ye Prasade Pure Sarva
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Agya.
Guru Mukta Padma Vaya Chitete Koriya
Arana Kori Ho Mane Asha.
Arana Koriya Mane Asa.
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Udhama Gati.
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Udama Gati.
Jai Prasade Pure Sarva Asha.
Prasade Pure Sarva
Chatudana Dilo Jai Janme Janme Prabhu Shai. Divya Jnana Hrida Prakashito. Prema Bhakti Jaha Hoite Avidya Vinasa Jate. Vede Gaya Jahara Charita.
Ye Prasade Pure Sarva
Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adhama Janara Bandhu. Lokanatha Loke Raji Vana. Aha Prabhu Koro Doya Deha More Pada Chaya. Vijasa Gosukribu Vana Prabhupada Patita Pavana Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine
Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Dishatarine
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Sasunyavadi Paschatya Dishatarine
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Chaitanya
Prabhu Nityananda
Nityananda
Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol
Hari Bol, Hari Bol,
Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol
Jayo Vishnupad Paramahansa Paramrajikachasta Tarasatira Shishi Shimad His Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Sri Kahosha Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Vaitaka Radha Shivasana Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Sam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Shri Turadham Ki Jai, Shri Jagannathpuri Dham Ki Jai, Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Ganga Maya Ki Jai, Shamana Maya Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vinda Ki Jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled Lord, all glories to the assembled Lord, all glories to the assembled Lords, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Patita Pavani Ki Jai. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain the pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, we can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is perfection, fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him, ecstatic prema emanates. By him, ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and Lord and master of devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread throughout all the three worlds. We take shelter of your lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada, Patita Pavani Ki Jai. Gauravani Pracharya.